and press the record button.
Yeah.
It's 9:30 in the morning,
Oh my
We've
which
gone
god.
is
for an early one.
it's early for me. It's not early for these guys because they've got kids. But I'm tired. I woke up
Yeah,
35
we have
minutes ago.
caffeine.
But we do have our coffee, and yeah,
I've got my
so
water.
got water. This is the new look. Straight edge, push the point, where we've all given up booze and we just drink water and coffee instead.
Simon, where's the hat?
I didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
No, no,
It's it's still packed in my bag from the weekend. I'll be honest.
I just want to
No
say
worries.
these hats are amazing, and also
Uh,
we're getting to the deck
um,
tech. Stick with us, stick with us. We have to chat a little bit. Like they're just so good, and I've never worn a cap before, and I just think they're great. So and
I, I was
keep your
quite
head
I wear
so
it
surprised.
all the
warm.
time.
Keep your head
Yeah,
warm.
I was quite surprised how good they look on me, and I don't really suit caps normally,
Yeah,
so very happy.
Oh, dad vibes. Dad
Dad
vibes.
dad
vibes
talk,
is
guys. We're bringing
definitely.
it back. Right, Simon, what are we here to do today? You're here to do a deck tech. Tell us about what you're going to be showing us today,
So we are here to look at my Earth Briar deck that I managed to take to top four of the UK Nationals.
which is pretty hype.
So
Fantastic.
we're going to try and follow a similar format to what Hamish did with his Viscerai deck recently, and we'll just start off looking at equipment loadout, move on to the core of the deck, and then talk about sideboarding options, and finish with a bit of a chat about the opponents I played on the day, and thank you to them in advance. But yeah, it was a great day, great couple of days.
Awesome.
Uh,
It looks very similar to
Yeah,
the to the Viscerai
just
deck
two
by one card.
differences. Yeah.
there's a few differences, not obvious right now, but there might be a few differences
Yeah.
later. But yeah, as you can see,
Mm.
so this deck idea started off, and I need to give a shout out to David Dyson, who is a very good deck brewer and player in the UK, and a couple of the New Zealand guys, including Rohan and Jason, for sort of putting me onto the idea of Earth Briar
Mm.
about a month before Nationals. We had the release of Tales of Aria, and initially I thought, having played some Ranger back in the early days, I thought I might gravitate towards Lexi. That wasn't the case, and as soon as I started playing around with Briar and David's deck initially, which had a lot more generics than this does, I knew that the playstyle was something I wanted to look further into, but I found the deck that he built a bit janky and a bit clunky. Um, I managed to get some testing done early days and make some minor tweaks, and then I had a chat with Jason Hamer, another good player in the UK, who came on board with me, and then we got very geeky with spreadsheets and ratios, and this is the product that you will see today.
Awesome.
Yeah, so just on that, I think one of the hardest parts of building one of these Briar decks is getting your ratios correct, and I'm sure you're gonna to jump into that.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that the ratios that you've ended up with, you probably could just consider to be the best ratios for Earth Briar.
I think it depends on your play style and what you're trying to achieve with the deck. With our deck, we think this works. There are very minor differences between mine and Jason's end product deck, and that comes down to play style. I think there's a lot to be said for making small adjustments to these sorts of decks for your own play style, and that's not to be dismissed for
No.
longer tournament play as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we looked at this initially with the outlook of, well, it's a rune blade, so you need to balance your non-attack actions and then your attack actions, as Hamish talked about yesterday, um, or recently, should I say? And
Yeah.
what only not only have you got non-attack actions and attack actions, but you've also got the amount of earth cards, the amount of elemental cards, the number of cards you need to be able to fuse, um, cards that give go again. It's a different level.
Yeah.
So
It seems like it's you've got with Viscerai you've got two things, right? Yeah, like you're saying. It's non-attack and attack. Get that right, you're kind of cool. This one,
mm,
yeah, man, you got like a three-way sort of
yeah,
workaround. Maybe even pushing it to sometimes you've got to get the balance on four different ways.
yeah. So we'll
With the
talk about it as
earth,
we
it's
go
mad.
through. But
Yeah.
we've got a spreadsheet, we've got numbers, and
Because
it suited
we want it,
it
man.
suited us, yeah,
Yeah.
because we want it.
Show me the
So
numbers.
the first question I think I had to answer for myself was why Briar over another Runeblade?
Yeah.
We've already got Chain, we've already got Viscerai. The key to my playstyle for Briar is how do I maximize the embodiments? So obviously the embodiments of Earth you get whenever you deal damage with an attack action card, and I'll bring the zoom up here. The embodiments of Lightning you get whenever you play your second non-attack action that turn. So embodiment of Earth, you're going to be setting yourself to block for the next turn with your non-attack actions, and embodiment of Lightning, you're going to give yourself go again, and that could be twice in one turn. If you've already got an embodiment of Lightning from the turn before, and you have go again on your first attack, you can then make another embodiment of Lightning, have go again, and then attack with the sword. So it's a bit more clunky than a Viscerai, Movrian Skies, for example, but it does give you a bit more freedom. So Briar, for me, you have to work at it. You have to get the lines of play to allow you to build those embodiments, maximize them, and that's what sets it apart from other Runeblades and other heroes. The weapon we've talked about, Rosetta Thorn. As soon as you've played both a non-attack action and an attack action, you get your +2 arcane damage. And it's nuts. Most players aren't playing 2 arcane barrier unless they've got the Arcanite Skullcap online. So, and even if they have got it online, do they want to pitch 3 to block 2?
Yeah.
You're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
The only way it could be more broken is if it actually did make embodiments of Earth for Briar, because that would be busted.
Yeah, that'd be busted.
I always look at Rosetta Thorn and compare it to Dread Scythe, and I just think, what is going on here?
What's gone wrong here? Yeah.
Well, not to go into it too much, but Dread Scythe can just do that on tap, and that one takes a little bit of work.
Add
but
a 2 resource premium, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is the pure fact that you're saying with Briar, you're playing the cards out anyway. You're trying to maximize what Briar's going to do, and then the source goes brilliant. You're just making me really good for doing what you want to do.
Yeah,
it's so good.
For a token weapon, it's just phenomenal. Yeah. So, looking at the equipment, then again, Arcanite Skullcap is our base headpiece, and the 3 block it enables over the game can be really important. Tunic. Now, this is an interesting one. So we run Tunic, and I think the resource that it gives you, which can be used for creepers activation, it can be used for a sword activation. I think that over the life of the game gives you more damage potential than the block, say, from Bloodsheath Skeletor. But there is an argument for running a Bloodsheath in your sideboard, which we don't at the moment, for matchups like the Hyper Aggro Lightning Briar matchup, where you do need those extra blocks and you might be a bit more conservative on your resources. So it's just something to think about. The Grasp, it's just a phenomenal card. I can't think about the number of games that I've won with this card just by saving a blue in hand, pitching to make a rune chant, and coming in with the sword for 1+2, 1 arcane +2 physical. It usually takes a 2-card block if they're down on 1. If they haven't got any arcane barrier, then it's a game win. It's really important.
Yeah.
And then the creepers, I don't think I've maximized the best use of the creepers so far, and I'm still working on that. It's an insane card. It allows you to have go again for 1 resource. Yeah. As long as you've got the right card in hand, it gives you go again from 1 resource. And if you add on another resource for the sword, and you've already played your non-attack because you need to for the creepers and your attack before, then it opens up for at least 4 damage extra for you. So I think it's just an insane card, and most people aren't running the Arcane Barrier 2, like we said. So if you hit with the sword, you're good for the next turn with the creepers. You keep it around.
Have you managed to pull off the cheeky Mount Heroic using the creepers?
Not in a competitive game, but in testing I have.
Oh, that's
so
sick.
We'll come back to that, and it's something I want to talk about.
Cool.
But so that's my equipment loadout. We're gonna just have a bit of a look now at the core deck. Is that all right, guys?
That is great. Yeah, I think that equipment It's pretty standard. For people wondering, is there any other additional equipment? There is one more to come in the sideboard, I believe. Correct, Simon?
Yeah.
So you're
there is one
basically
more.
you are running that equipment in 95% of your matchups. So let's just
Correct.
jump straight into the core deck.
Okay, so this core deck is 53 cards.
Yeah.
It's I am only questioning that because I realized when I looked at my sideboard plan, these 3 cards are in every matchup. So I was like, oh, well, that should be in my core deck. But let me go through.
Is there a
So
time where that isn't? I suppose. I don't know. We'll go through it. I suppose. Yeah.
we'll go through it. So I've got my attack actions on the left, and in my core deck, I have, I believe now 20. Well, what's that? 3, 6, 9, 18, 26 cards, 26 attack actions in my core deck, and a very similar ratio of non-attack actions because I want to try and keep my attack action to non-attack action ratio roughly 1-to-1. It's not exactly 1-to-1 in all of my matchups, and I do let my attack actions drop down slightly when I sideboard in certain other cards. But what I'm trying to do is prevent bricking hands of just attack actions or just non-attack actions.
That's interesting. So if you were to go, like, say, a couple up on one side, you would go for more non-attack actions over more attack actions? Is there a particular reason for that, or is it just the...
That's interesting.
Purely because if I play out 2 non-attack actions and 1 attack action, I get go again and I can come in with the sword.
Yeah. So you want to be on that kind of ratio, don't you? Yeah.
If I play 2 non-attack actions a turn, I get go again. So we talked about cookie cutter turns. My cookie cutter turn for Briar is non-attack action, big attack action, sword.
Yeah, and the key and
off of 3 resources.
Yeah, important.
Is there a specific non-attack action card
one that costs
your
2? I guess is the.
What was one that costs 0? Maybe the 2 0 costs.
Oh, you're saying non-attack action. Sorry, yeah.
For example, we might do a Sonata Arcanix for cost 0.
Yeah.
Do an arcane damage. Hopefully get an attack action in hand. Do an arcane damage, followed by something like a Weave Earth, which boosts your next Earth or Elemental attack.
Yeah.
And then you've got maybe or Bramble, which if you fuse it gives you +3 and 1 arcane just anyway. And then if you come in with something like a Stir the Wildwood, so let's give you the ideal turn. You've got Bramble Spark fused with a Weave Earth that's in hand. It's going to give you 1 arcane +3.
Mm-hmm.
Then you play your Weave Earth and you go again on your next next attack action, and that gives +3, or if it's fused +4. And then you play your Stir the Wildwood from Arsenal maybe, and it's coming now for, if you fused it with another Earth
11.
card, it's now coming in for 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, +1 arcane, and go again, and then you hit with the sword off a blue.
Coming in for more.
I mean, that's insane.
If you deal the arcane, it's coming in for 13. If you fuse it, it's coming in for 15, right? +4 from Fuse Earth, +3
it'd be
from
9.
Bramble Spark.
Ridiculous.
It's just bonkers.
Well, you pick the best card. Stir the Wildwood is insane.
But that isn't even that crazy, right? Like,
it's not even that hard to do. I think that's the trick.
It's not particularly difficult.
Right? And of course you come in for what, 15, and then cheeky sword at the end, right? For another 4.
Oh, exactly. So
the
potential for big attacks is there. I think the key, so as I said, we've got about an equal split in the core deck. You may notice some interesting inclusions, or what you think are interesting inclusions. So let me just go through. CNC, we all know CNC is a mad card. If you can play it when you've got a Channel Mount Heroic out, or you can add a Bramble Spark to it, you're coming in for 9, 12 damage, 1 arcane, and CNC's no defense reaction. Great.
Yeah.
If you've already got an embodiment of lightning, E-Strike's phenomenal. So you come in with 5, draw a card with go again, you replenish your hand, and good luck. It's just a great card. Like it works very well with the draw, with the embodiment of lightning. especially from Arsenal. If you've managed to stash one away in Arsenal the turn before, it's a zero cost card basically coming in for 5.
Yeah, that seems like it has a lot of utilities as well, especially if you've got a Force of Nature with the go again. That's I assume that's when you're pushing these strikes to the silly all modes.
The limits. To the limits. We'll come around to the non-attack actions in a bit.
Yeah.
We've talked about Stir the Wildwood. If aggro decks aren't going to block the arcane, it's crazy. Like it comes in for far too much damage. One inclusion that people have asked about is explosive growth. Now, maybe this is a personal sort of attachment, I don't know, but it's done me so well in this deck. Because it's a reliably consistent Earth Fuse deck, I rarely play this without fusing. Now, the fuse means that although it's a 1 arcane plus 3 damage card, the fuse means it's actually a 2-card block, otherwise it's coming in for 1+4 and making 2 embodiments. And if you've got go again, then the extra 1 power from the arcane hitting and the 1 power from the card hitting adds +2 to the sword as well. So because it's fused, when you attack, whenever it deals damage, attacks you control this combat chain gain +1. So the sword then comes in for 2 arcane +4.
That's nuts.
For 1 resource, which is nuts. And again, if you add it in with the Channel Mount Heroic, if you add it in with a Fused Bramble Spark, it's then coming in for +1 arcane, +1 arcane, 9 damage. And if the 2 arcane hit, then it's 11 damage. Go again. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So it's not for everyone. I think in a reliably consistent Earth Fuse deck, it's got a lot of potential, especially, and there is an argument to say that it could be in the sideboard only for those decks that don't want to block Arcane. As we saw in the top 4 match, where my mind was melting, it's not really that great a card against Bravo because they'll just block the Arcane. We've got red and blue explosive growths, and then we've got a little Earth card package. But Burgeoning is in there as a 2-cost 6 attack, and an Earth card, so it covers 3 bases. If you fuse it to fuse a previous attack and put it in Arsenal, it's coming in for 7. Good break point, very good value, 2 for 7 card. And if you've got go again, then again it's just rude.
These cards that fuse and have a beneficial effect from being played from the Arsenal, such as things like Electrify, and I think Polar Blast is the ice one, and So Tomorrow. If you've played the game a few times with these new heroes, you'll quickly realize how surprisingly good they are, because it's very often the last card that ends up in your hand. So if you can get an extra benefit from arsenaling it, it's fantastic.
Exactly, and it's done me well going into Arsenal after fusing a Stir or an explosive growth, and it again very, very useful. You may notice that I've got 9 blue pitch attack actions, 6 of them are Earth. In fact, I've got another 2 vexing down here. The reason we have this many blue attack actions is because of Sonata Arcanics. And sometimes when you do a Sonata, you want a big hitting CNC or E-Strike or Stir. Other times you need the resources, and actually having a split of attack actions that are blue and red gives you the opportunity maybe to say, well, I need that blue Autumn's Touch. It blocks for 3, it pitches for 3. And it's an Earth card that I could potentially keep my Channel Mount Heroic up another turn with. So we've got plenty of blue cards in here to try and keep things running.
I was going to say that I feel like the Sonata turns is like, even for I think it's probably just for most Runeblade players, like the most valued card to pick is always the blue card. The blue card always just goes, oh, that's actually more exciting than the red, because it opens the plays up massively.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you the options. Yeah, especially if it's a fuse card as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. With this deck in particular, you're able to fix your hand with Sonata in so many different ways, whether it's resource, fuse material, or the red power card you need to put the pressure on.
Yeah. So we've got Blue Autumn's Touch, which is a 3-block 5 attack, which is just great. It does cost 3, so it doesn't quite fit in the cost curve of the deck, but it works when it needs to work. Break Ground is another 3-cost card. Now, I include Break Ground Blue. Jason, my testing partner, includes Burgeoning Blue because they're both Earth cards. The Burgeoning's 2-cost for 4 power. This is 3-cost for 5 power, but it also, in a bind, and once or twice, this has helped me to cycle your arsenal. So you can play this. If you've got an embodiment of lightning, you play the Break Ground Blue, you get rid of your arsenal and get another card. So it's an include mostly for pitch, but sometimes it helps with its effect as well.
Yeah.
And then, as we've talked about before, Vexing Malice is a broken card, does 2 arcane damage for 1 cost. No one's running 2 arcane barrier. It's a game winner.
Yep.
If you get to 1 life each, and you pull a Vexing Malice and you can play it, then you're fine. You're sorted.
Love it.
So that's the inclusion there. Right. That's all my core attack actions. I think you can just see the potential when it goes.
I love it. I think it's really good. I think that's very solid.
And then moving on to the non-attack actions, again, Plunder Run, and you'll see a third one in my sideboard. It's just a ridiculous card from Arsenal, gives the card draw, and it also gives you +3 when played from Arsenal. You can get really cute when you play it with creepers, so you can get your card draw you can play this in the reaction phase and get your card draw when it hits. But coming out of Arsenal, it's pretty damn good. Sonata. I love Sonata. I never thought I would love Sonata, but it's just even played for 0 cost, the chance of doing 1 arcane and getting a card into your hand is just, and it's a non-attack action. So you play this out, and then you just play 1 more non-attack action, and you've got to go again for your next attack.
Yeah, it's also a cheeky creepers card.
Yeah, you put me onto this one, Hamish, and I aspire to be able to do this just to finish the game off, right? So
Hamish did it to me. So
did he?
Yeah. So explain what it is.
Simon. So you end on defense. The opponent's playing their turn. You block with an attack action card. You activate creepers. Pay 1. Probably pitch 3. Pay 1 for the creepers, and then Sonata for 4 cards maybe. And if you do get 1 attack action and 1 non-attack action, you ping them for 1 damage. They either die because they're on 1 health, or they have to block it.
Yeah, and even if they run Arcane Barrier, normally you'll be doing
just disrupts their turn
in the end game, and they might have pitched their whole hand to play a huge dominate attack or something. So even if you're up against a hero like Bravo that has access to Arcane Barrier, they've spent all their resources on their attack. It's like playing against Kano. It's like waiting for them to run out of resource and then zap them and win the game.
And then sigilling them. Yeah. So it's got so many utilities. I rarely play it for more than just the 3 cards.
Yeah.
And because the deck is 50-50 pretty much, the chances are you will get what you need. It does whiff, and we can talk about that later. Had a couple of big whiffs against people in the Nationals tournament, but generally it's a great card. G-Tome, Gorganian Tome.
Oh boy,
this card now is coming into its own, and I think when it first came out, people were like, "Oh, why would you run that?" But now, again, when you can play it when you can play it as a self-replacing non-attack action, what more do you want? I mean, it's the perfect card for Briar and even Viserai, right?
It's a Runeblade must, in my opinion, because Runeblade always has. Yeah, exactly. It's nuts. Another very, very good Creepers funky pick card.
And also, then when you play it in the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, it's just that this is the card that last time I was saying this card is getting more and more popular. So now we're actually getting to situations where you actually draw 2 off it, and it can win you the game. So,
absolutely.
And I was thinking about this. Increasingly, if you do come up against the mirror and you want to play this card, I think increasingly cards like E-Strike and Sink Below are actually pretty good, because you can be like, if I let my opponent draw 2 with Tome, I'm going to lose. So you need to be able to send it on its way down to the bottom of the deck, and the only way you can do that currently is with Crown of Seeds, E-Strike, and sink below. So just be careful about playing it out because it might come back to bite you.
Might come to haunt you.
Especially Lightning Briar Mirror. If they get 2 draws off their tome, you're probably gonna lose. Like it's that it could be that close, those games. So
yeah. So those are the generic. We'll come back to the last generic non-attack action, but those are my generic non-attack actions, and they generally replace themselves, so you can't really argue with that. From the elemental package, we've got 3 red and 3 blue Bramble Spark, which again is just a broken card. If you can fuse it, it's +3. You don't need to fuse it to get your +1 arcane. It's basically Siege
pump
Dragon.
For nothing. That's a bit good, right? Normally we usually see a pump cost 1. You know,
yeah,
that's but now, well, come to fight is like my go-to.
I mean, it is just red nimblism with an upside. I'll just say
with an upside, but
you can play it, but not in this deck. Not in this deck because the red nimblism only works on 1-cost cards. So in this deck, it's OP because you can play it on.
As I say,
Stir the Wild.
CNC, Bramble Spark into Stir, Bramble Spark into CNC.
And it
adds to everything.
And it adds the instance of arcane damage to the card. So if you play your explosive growth, it's now buffing 3 rather than 2 if they all hit.
Correct.
Right.
So, as well as the Bramble Sparks, we've also got your Weave Earths, which I think, again, we play for a reason. We play enough Elemental and Earth action cards to give the benefit of 3 at least, and if not 4. It's a 0-cost card. It's phenomenal. Like it, even the blue comes in useful every now and then. Not just as a fuse and a pitch card, but otherwise. And then probably the MVP of the whole deck is this card here.
Channel Mount Heroic. It's a bit silly, isn't it?
It's right. So I haven't got enough good things to say about this card. It blocks for 3, which in this deck means it probably blocks for 4 or 5 most turns. If you can play it out, you've got +3 on your attack action cards, not only on your turn, but also on the opponent's turn. Very sorry, Prism.
Yeah.
You're going to die. Yeah. Right? You just... And the good thing is we run enough Earth cards that I reliably keep this out for 2 turns and get 2 uses out of it at least. And some occasions I can keep it out for 3 turns, which is just good game.
Like, that's just silly.
It's really good. The others that we've got here, Force of Nature it's a great card when it works. It's a blue pitch. It blocks for 3, which means again it probably blocks for more. But the fuse action and even the non-fuse action are great. So if you can fuse it, it gives your next attack +1, and then any attack this turn, any attack action card this turn that hits with greater base power than its base, draws a card. It's like a long-running plunder run if you're going to come in for more. Okay. I don't think necessarily pure Earth Briar gets the most out of it because we're only coming in for maybe 1 or 2 attack actions a turn, but it's still great. If you come in with 1 attack with Go Again and then end on an E-Strike for 7, for example, you get another card draw for your arsenal, right?
Yeah.
It can be really useful if you find the right lines of play.
And you can play this like Plunder Run with Spellbind Creepers as well, can't you?
You can, as long as you play it on an attack that already has a power greater than its base.
So then you can set it up for the next one. But...
Just to go back, just one slight thing, because you were saying that you were going to bring up the Creepers Channel Mount Heroic interaction.
Oh, you're right. I forgot. So there is nothing quite like attacking for 6 with a Command and Conquer, and then once they've chosen to block 6 in the reaction phase, you say, well, actually, I'm going to attack. I'm going to use my creepers and play Channel Mount Heroic as an instant in the attack reaction phase. It costs a lot, but you can do it off 2 blue pitch, and it then makes your CNC come in for 9, and they can't do anything about it because they can't play any defense reactions.
Yeah,
and it gives you an action point back.
Yep.
And it gives you an action point back. Go again.
Yeah, so you pretty much just go, CNC for nothing. And you're like, okay, block 6. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Boom!
You've lost 2
blow them
cards
out.
and your Arsenal.
Yeah, so they're losing 3 cards, and you're using 2 cards, one of which is an aura, so it's not really being used yet. You're still going to get more value out of it. It's a really good trade.
And then you can swing with Rosetta because you played you met its requirements.
You might be running out of resources at this point.
And you've got if you've got one on the tunic, you come in with
that's
the
what
Rosetta,
tunic
right?
is for.
Tunic's good.
Tunic is so good.
It's blowout. It's blowout turns. That just seems to make the deck just get a bit fiery.
But it's spotting lines of play like that and interactions like that. Because if Channel Mount Heroic just said your Earth attack action cards or Earth or Elemental attack action cards have +3, that would be broken. Like this, if you manage to keep it out for a couple of turns, it's great. So build around it. It's great. The non-obvious inclusions, I think, for the non-attack actions, probably Pulse of Candlehold. Again, I rarely play it as it's intended to be played. It works as an Earth Fuse. It blocks for 3. And in the matchups where you're worried about fatigue, it gets you 2 cards back on the top of your deck. So you can set up a late game hand that is perfect for what you need.
Yeah, so it's a mini remembrance that blocks and also achieves your goal of playing non-attack action cards.
See, I love this. I love this card again for the Creepers interaction of you play Pulse of Candlehold, put the 2 cards you want on the top of your deck, and then just play your attack card. Creepers in Sonata, and you're guaranteed to just pick the card that you want on the top with a go again, and you get your lightning fuse token from doing that. So you've got your go again anyway. Strike with your Rosetta 4 and keep your lightning card for the next following turn. You've just maximized so much use out of just one. I know it seems a bit setupy, but Pulse, Sonata, any attack,
Well, it's just good, like setting at the top of your deck and also achieving a purpose. Because that's why these non-attack action cards that seem a bit like it's because you have to think of them as being half of an embodiment of lightning. It's half of a go again, and it's like that actually, is written on the card.
There are times when you'll play a Weave Earth Blue out just because you want the embodiment of lightning, not because you want the effects. It's not optimal, but there are turns when that happens. And the last non-attack action in the core, and again, this differs with me and Jason. Jason doesn't like running the Whispers. I love this card. Block 3, pitch 3, cost 0, and in a bind, you can play it before your Sonata and set up the top of your deck as well. It does a job, and it does it well for me. I wouldn't take it out of my core. We've got 25 blues in the core. 23 blues in the core here. That's the minimum I run. 23 blues. I need a blue every hand to run the engine of 2 cost attack, 1 hit with sword. That's what I want.
Yeah.
You may be commenting on the lack of a lightning package. This is not a hybrid deck. We tried it at the beginning. We had some Bramble Spark. We had some We had some Blossoming Spellblade. We had some Ball Lightning. We had a couple of other lightning cards. I didn't gel with it, and I just found it annoying. I had a lightning card when I wanted to fuse an earth card. I had an earth card when I wanted to fuse a lightning card. So we cut it.
Yep.
We just focused on the core.
And I think the tournament, at least the UK Nats tournament, has shown that mono element
I think so.
Briar is the way to go, either lightning or earth.
Yeah, I agree. So that's the core. I'm sure lots of people would say, "Oh, why don't you put this in? And why don't you put this in?"
Oh, because
that's fine. And I completely my stock answer is this is the way I play, and this suits the way I play, and it is absolutely viable that you play slightly differently and you want to include your own cards. Please go away and test it and tell me how you get on, because I love hearing about changes to the decks that I've come up with or tested, and see if they can be used in a different way, because no one can spot all the lines of play, especially when you only had 3-4 weeks of testing time. So please go away, have a look.
But
there's so many options.
We'll only really listen to you if you do better than top 4.
So
your sideboards.
Let's have a look on the sideboard.
Look at this baby sideboard over here.
Yeah, that's tiny, man. God, but I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
Yes.
Let's go.
So, so this is the sideboard.
Yeah.
We've got 9 attack actions. As I say, the burgeoning were in here, but I realise I play them in every matchup. We've got 9 attack actions. We've got 6 defense reactions, and we've got 5 non-attack actions, which sits well with the split of the core deck because there were slightly fewer attack actions than there were non-attack actions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with and we've got one piece of equipment just in case we come up against someone we really want to stop some arcane damage. Yeah. Probably Viscerai.
Probably.
And probably Earth Briar. Not so much worried about Lightning Briar.
That's a mistake.
Now, again, I've chosen Crown of Dichotomy. You could get rid of the creepers and put in Nullrune Boots. So you could play Arcanite Skullcap on the head and Nullrune Boots on the legs. That is, again, a viable option. I've chosen to keep the creepers for potential sneak attacks and the 1 block rather than the other way around.
Good choice.
I like that.
Good choice.
I think so.
Do you think, out of interest, Simon, do you think you would have run any Nullrune if you didn't know about Hamish's deck?
I think you should.
Yes, because of the Earth Briar mirror. Because I know what I do to other people with my arcane. I think I would have 1 arcane at least.
I think it's always not to sidetrack, but I think you should always just bring an arcane barrier with you. How annoying would you be if you actually did play up against someone and you just didn't bring it, right? So
yeah, maybe Lightning Briar, but that's the thing with Lightning Briar is at the moment that is the setting the direction. But I agree with you, Hamish. Any other matchup, it's always why not? It's just 1.
Why not? Well, just 1. So, have you got a list of people, Simon, that you've particularly put these cards in against particular matchups, or have you? Was it just kind of a on the fly?
It's all in the spreadsheet, Dad. It's all in the spreadsheet.
Oh, you got the spreadsheet.
Compare the spreadsheet to Hamish's scribbled notepad that he brought out.
Oh, come on, man! My scribbled notepad. I could take my scribbled notepad and put it in my debt box.
Exactly. I'd rather have a notepad.
We've got a spreadsheet with multiple sheets. Jason's got his sideboarding options. I've got mine. And they changed. I want to hear yours. They changed over time. So let's have a quick think. So
do you want me to throw out some names and you tell me what you put in?
You can do if you want to go through it that way.
Yeah. Okay. So Bravo, he's popular. What's your picks for Bravo?
Bravo, we run a 68 card deck. We're worried about fatigue and we're worried about recursion. Yeah. Again, if you look at my top 4 match against George, he played extremely well, and I did not. I didn't stick with our game plan, which is to hit breakpoints and chip through damage with the sword and the odd attack, not rush it, keep a defense reaction in arsenal. So against Bravo, we put in all 6 defense reactions. Because they're willing to block arcane, sometimes the sigil only blocks for 3. But I think it's often interesting asking them the question, do they want the extra damage or do they want to block it and maybe mess up their pummel or other? Sink belows are great for hand manipulation, and I think having one of those in arsenal is always a good plan. We include all of the rites of replenishment because they can potentially add 2 cards back from your graveyard to your deck.
Over that one, Simon. I think a few people may not have properly read this one because it's so long.
It's very wordy.
So if you attack and have done arcane damage, then you get to put a non-attack action from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. And if you fuse it, then you get to put an attack action from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck.
Yeah, so potentially 2 extra cards in your deck that you're getting back. Though you are using this 1 card to do it, so it's obviously a 1 for 2 kind of deal, but still good.
That's really good. That's such good value for not fatiguing out, and in order to keep the gas cards back in the deck when you need to come back round. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So basically, that is our sideboard here for Bravo.
Well, not Crown, but...
not the Crown, no.
No, not the Crown.
Arcane Bravo coming at you.
Arcane Bravo. Oh.
So we add in these cards here. The Autumn's Touch just to keep the Earth cards ratio up, and we run 23 Earth cards against Bravo because it's a slightly bigger deck. The So Tomorrow because it's another blue, and because it allows us to bring cards again from the graveyard back to the main deck. So we can actually play a fairly slow game against Bravo
Yeah.
and get enough card recursion. We start with a large deck and we can get enough card recursion to make that a viable option. Again, in the game you saw me play, I didn't play that well. I apologize, but that is the game plan and you should stick to it.
And like you said, if your game plan is to try and chip, the Autumn's Touch Red comes in for 7. Is that right?
Exactly.
So
obviously
aids in that by either forcing them to trade 3 of their cards for one of yours, or you chip damage, which is what you want to be doing.
Is this sideboard plan similar to other heroes in the format? Like when I wrote down Oldhim, Dory, and Bravo, I just knew that this was the same package. Is this the same, or is this the same sort of thing with Oldhim, for example?
This is the Guardian. This is my Guardian package, yeah.
Right, got you.
So this is my Guardian package. You mentioned Dorinthia, for example. If I look at my Dorinthia package, I take out the So Tomorrows. I put in what do? I take out the So Tomorrows, the rights of replenishment, the Autumn's Touch. I put in the Consuming Volition. I put in the Bramble Sparks.
Keep the deck tighter.
Yeah, it's still quite a big deck. It's like 63, 64 cards. But these cards, Dorinthia does not like these. They just don't. And they came in quite useful on the weekend. We'll get to that later. And again, Dorinthia is resource strapped as it is. They don't want to be pitching to stop an extra block.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Against Bolton, I would keep a similar idea. I still want to do arcane damage. I still want to have hand manipulation. I didn't actually play one, but I would probably take out. I would probably take out the Sink Balloons, to be fair.
That's interesting.
Make it a lean 61 card deck.
Cool. Interesting.
Well, I think against Bolton we have enough non-attack actions to block effectively if needs be.
Yeah, that's a good shout actually. Yeah, that's what I didn't think of.
And Force of Nature are both
with embodiments as well. Yeah.
No, that's a good shout. You've literally got your embodiments doing all the work for you.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the Warriors. Should we just go on to the Rune Blades, really? Chain and Viserai and Mirrors. Yeah, go for it.
So Viserai and Chain, Viserai and Chain, I put in the So Tomorrows because I want more blues to stop some rune chants and arcane. I put in my Bramble Sparks and I put in 3 Autumn's Touch. So I run a 61 card deck with 32 non-attack actions and 29 attack actions.
With the crown, I assume, yeah.
With the crown,
yeah.
And I run 24 Earth cards. So that is quite high percentage. It's a 39% fuse ratio.
All right, and Chain.
So that's the same. Yeah. That's the same
Chain.
What about Briar?
Is there? Oh yeah, and Briar.
Yeah, you know it. So I have 2 sideboards for Briar. Let's talk about the Earth Mirror to start off with. So we have 2 Autumn's Touch. We have 1 Plunder Run. We run 2 Bramble Sparks. We run 2 Rites of Replenishment. And that is the sideboard package. We run a 61 card deck and 21 Earth cards in that one.
And this is
with the Crown of Dichotomy. This is for Earth Briar. And you can only really make that distinction if you've seen people playing the decks prior. But again, it did come up late. Yeah. So that changes.
We could just talk about that now before you get stuck into the Lightning Briar. Is if you don't know if it's Lightning or Earth, do you hedge your sideboard at all, or do you just go for one over the other?
If I don't, good question. If I don't know, Lightning Briar is more dangerous to me than Earth Briar, so I'll side for the Lightning.
Good shout.
That's my plan as well. It seems makes sense.
Which gives you an advantage as well, Simon, doesn't it? If people don't know what you're playing, they think to themselves, I don't want to get blown up by a Lightning Briar, and then you come in with your Earth Briar, you do get a little bit of an edge there. So go ahead with the Lightning.
Okay, so what about the Lightning?
With the Lightning, I get rid of the Crown. What do I do here? I put in the Consuming. These go. So basically, it becomes Sigil, Bramble Spark, plus or minus Plunder Run for the card draw and the consuming, and I run the Skull Cap.
And that's a lean 60 card deck, yeah.
That is a 62 card deck, and I think what we actually did on the fly on at Nationals is added in the sinks as well to run 60.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's what we did. We took those out, run a 64 card deck.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, all of those cards seem pretty crucial.
This card in the Lightning Briar match is it's a massive swing because you're blocking. They're not going to block your arcane. It's blocking for 4. It's doing 1 damage and stopping them getting an embodiment. So it's like a 2+ damage swing on the next turn. If they needed those embodiments to block, they often don't. But if they needed them to block, then it's at least 1 damage save. So it's almost a 2 damage swing.
It's an E-strike, right? It's a 0/5, which is not something you get in Flesh and Blood very often.
Yeah. So I think it's great in that matchup. The Bramble Sparks speak for themselves. The Sink Below can be. We added those in just because 3 wasn't enough. I think you need more 4 blocks, and you can't always rely on having your non-attack actions block for more with your embodiments in this particular matchup.
Especially if you're not the aggressor.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. So that's the Rune Blades. Did we say Prism?
No.
Haven't said Prism. You might be able to work out Prism is just take out all the defense actions, take out these. Are these 6 and 7 power attacks?
Oh, they are.
So we'll put all of those in. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. No, yeah.
63 cards. 63 cards. With 12 6 or more power attacks. And with Channel Mount Heroic, it makes 90% of our attack actions block for a 6 power. So it's crazy. So, for example, in the Prism matchup, I think we run 22 Earth cards, which is 35% fuse, which is really handy, and it makes things like Bramble Spark sing. It just adds that extra fuse card that you might be needing, but it is expensive. Well, it does cost more than the normal 2 attack, so you might not attack with it if you had it in hand. Unless you had a tunic up, so you've got Go Again, and then you come with the sword afterwards. But who's going to complain about coming in with Plunder Run into Autumn's Touch for 10 with Go Again, maybe from a previous turn, and then the sword for 2+2? Like it's a big turn.
Brill. Right. So should we push it forward? Dash.
So Dash is an interesting one. I think this deck has an extremely good matchup against Dash. These will come out. The Rites of Replenishment stay in. Autumn's Touch 2, Bramble Spark 2, and Plunder. 62 cards. Again, recursion. These are in for recursion against a Dash that's trying to fatigue rather than the 6 power versus Prism.
All right, cool. Trying to think what else now. Did you put Reinhardt and Levia in the same boat?
Yeah, so they are again on a similar line to my Guardian package. I don't run as many cards versus them. I don't need the Rites of Replenishment. The Autumn's Touch. Again, they can stay in for Earth cards more than anything else. But I definitely do need the defense reactions just to keep an arsenal and stop those barrage and beatdowns.
Yeah. And Levia, the same sort of thing, I take it?
Same. I run Reinhardt and Levia as the same. I must admit, I didn't have much chance to test against Levia. The games I did test were very close, but I was able to take wins in the testing games. So I think Reinhardt's probably harder to deal with, actually.
Oh, is there any more trick?
Katsu.
We've got
Katsu.
So we've got Katsu and Lexi to go through, I think. So Katsu, again, we made an on-the-fly change. So we have Plunder Run, We keep our Bramble Sparks in because they do arcane damage, and Katsu doesn't like arcane damage. We actually put the 3 sigils in, and then we don't need any Autumn's Touch, they're too expensive. I think I kept those in as well. So we run a 63 card deck.
Interesting. I would have thought you would have put the Consuming Volition in.
Yeah, same.
Oh, sorry. No, I clicked the wrong card. That's exactly that.
Yeah.
That was the change we made on the fly, was the Consuming Volitions, because it just hurts them too much.
Yeah.
We also run a very similar package against Lexi. We assumed that Lexis would be more aggro than ice. There was one aggro Lexi there. Sorry, there was one ice Lexi there. I didn't actually come up against them. But yes, we run the same package against Lexi.
All right. Trying to think of this. I think that's
covered it. I think.
Oh, did you bother with Wizard or Azalea?
No. I'm not as clever as you. I did not put in a Wizard package because what can I do? What can they do? I just run. I'll run 1 arcane barrier for shits and giggles. Excuse my language.
Right. You gotta run Skullcap, mate, and just try and get down
and get lower in health. Yeah.
Brill. All right. Well, that's really good. That's really good, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Simon.
I'm happy. Yeah.
So I think
I'm happy to answer questions anytime about it. I mean, it was such a labor of love. A lot of testing went into it. A lot of manipulation of numbers and working out ratios of Earth cards, non-attack actions, attack actions. I can definitely see why people prefer running the Go Again generics like the Ravenous Rabble, the Vigor Rush, Scar for a Scar. I just think if you manage to get the ratios right, the ceiling for this deck is much higher. The floor is probably much lower. The floor being completely bricked hands is much lower. But I think the ceiling is much higher, and as we've talked about with interactions with Channelmount Heroic, with CNC, with Plunder Run from Arsenal, with Explosive Growth doing Arcane, with Bramble Spark Fused, with Sonata pinging Arcane, with Gorgonian Tome getting you an extra card, I think the potential is massive. I'm very grateful for this deck taking me 7-1 on the day, so I went through Swiss CC rounds undefeated at UK Nationals, and I beat Akatsu in the quarterfinals. And then, as I say, unfortunately, Bravo was my demise in the semi-final.
Oh, wow! And I didn't know you went defeated throughout Swiss and CC.
Yeah, I messed up some draft play, but CC I was feeling pretty comfortable,
which is great. I think you've put the effort in. I mean, both of you have with these decks. They're both not the. That you took the time to build these decks, Viserai and Earth Briar, put the time in testing, played it up against different heroes, worked out exactly what you wanted to do to your sideboard. And I think it shows that if you're out there wanting to get to a top 8, you need to bear in mind that that's the level of work that you probably need to put in. It's these fine margins and knowing your matchups that make the big difference. I
just wanted to run through and give quick shout outs to the people I played on the day, and just quickly talk about the matchups very briefly. I mean, it was bound to happen after 3 weeks of testing together and putting a deck together. Round 1, I got paired with Jason Hamer, my testing partner, in an Earth Briar mirror. So as we said earlier, I knew it was Earth Briar because we tested the deck together, and I think Jason will also admit his lack of reps physically playing the deck hampered him in that game, and I played a much more polished game. But we had the same tools available. As Dan said, if you get the reps in, you're going to do okay. So thanks to Jason again for being a great testing partner, and I'm sorry that I had to get my first win against you on the day. Graham Allington was my second opponent playing Dorinthia. And again, he made a couple of early tournament nervy mistakes, not giving attacks go again. One of my most fun matches of the whole weekend was round 3 when I played Adam East, again, someone in our testing group. He was then playing Lightning Briar, so he'd switched to Lightning Briar He'd made the decision to play Lightning Briar that week. but he had been testing with some more elemental lightning briar earlier in the testing period. The match was extremely close, and we both got down to 1, 2, 3 health. I had a couple of big Sonata turns with. He had a big Sonata turn with, and then he had a Ravenous Rabble that turned over a yellow rather than a red, which probably ended his game because I could block with 1 card. Extremely good game, extremely close, but it did give me a bit of confidence to say that I can beat Lightning Briar with this deck. My defense reactions came out at the right time, and my embodiments worked a treat.
Cool.
We then had 3 rounds of drafts. Unfortunately, I went 1 and 2. Hamish gave me an absolute spanking. 4 turns in a row with his Oldham doing 4 dominate turns in a row. So I had nothing to say there.
We can divulge that even more into episode 15.
That's a podcast story.
Yeah.
I came out of the draft feeling a bit licking my wounds. Gone in at 3-0 and come out at 4-2. I played a Death Dealer Lexi, who was running Shock Charmers and working on fusing Snapshot. It was a really tight game. Almost died. I had a choice of whether to block a 3-power attack, and he had a Lightning Press in hand. I chose to block it and not die at that time, and then I managed to come back and
well, chose to not lose.
Well, we'll come back to that point in a minute. But yeah, Seb Ball was great, and he played a great deck with some inclusions of altered cards by Ollie C. Arch on Altars. I don't know if you've seen those on the Discord. Some beautiful cards. It's quite distracting, but lovely to look at. My next round at 5-2 was a Bravo matchup, and Christopher Mason, one of the Scottish guys, come down from Dundee. What a hero. We got into a bit of a loop on 1 life. We were the longest running game on that round, and it was going back and forth. I was probing with Arcane and attacks, and he was coming at me for the hammer. And it would have gone to time. He decided very, very it's such a good gesture. It happened to him earlier in the day, and he just took 1 Arcane and let me go through with a win. So I'd say thank you to him. Put me at 6-2, got me into the top 24 cup. And then my final round of Swiss was against John Ho, who I've played many times locally to me in armories and other big events. He was also on a Death Dealer Lexi. John, thank you for a great game again. It was a lot of fun. It got down to a point where I was on 9 health. He came at me with an attack action. I had 2 cards left in hand, and I just quipped, I hope they're not 2 red lightning press, John. So I blocked for 3, and then he put down 2 red lightning press. If I hadn't have blocked, he would have got me from 9 health, but fortunately stayed alive, managed to get him on the next turn, and got through to the top 24 on 7-2.
So you got the revenge for me then, yeah? Because he beat me on round 7, and then round 8, and you got him round 9. Thank you, Simon.
Round 9.
So what about the top 8, Simon? What were your games?
Yeah,
top 8. Both my matches were on stream. I probably didn't take into account how much extra pressure that puts on, and my quarterfinal round was I couldn't have asked for a better. I came out of that feeling on top of the world, and I had to try and settle myself down a bit. But also George's match ran long. I think he went for 1 hour and 20 minutes in his quarterfinal against Hamish. So I had a bit of time waiting around and maybe got too many thoughts in my own head. But playing against Aaron Simon, who was playing Katsu in the quarterfinal.
Oh, I bet you like that, didn't you?
It was a really strange experience because I'm used to playing as Katsu. I hadn't come up against a Katsu all day. Right from the get-go, it felt like I knew exactly what he was going to play before he played it. And I knew when to block, and I knew when not to block, and I knew when to let him get his Mars triggers and not get his Mars triggers. And he played an incredibly clean game. I think anyone who goes back and watches that game on the stream, video on demand, will see great communication between 2 players enjoying the game. And unfortunately, he just didn't have the hands to keep up. I managed to do a lot of damage very quickly. And yeah, it was a good game. I'm sorry, Aaron, but well played. And I'm sure we'll meet again in tournaments in the future. And then George, who was playing Bravo. Again, he played extremely well, extremely patiently. I didn't give him as good a game as he deserved, but it was a great day, great 2 days. I think it was my first ever 2-day tournament, and just not enough good things to say about Fabio and the Living Realms team and their organisation, and also the judging team, and just how the days went. It was great.
Simon, yeah, man. Thank you so much for going through the deck. Thank you so much for talking about your games. We are going to wrap it up here. We've reached the hour mark. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to reach out to Big Med Sai on the UK Discord or whatever Discord that he's on. If we did miss any of the matchups, I think we went through all of them. But if you really want to know how this deck plays into Azalea, just get in touch with Simon. I'm sure he'll give you some advice. And yeah, I think that's all we've got time for today. Simon and Hamish, huge thanks for both of you doing your deck techs. And if you like this kind of content, good, because I think we've got more coming that we're working on as well. We'll see when we get that out.
Thanks very much for having me, guys.
It's all right. Cheers. Subscribe to Push the Point, and there'll be more content like this coming in the future from 2 of the top 8 best players in the UK and me.
You're the top 24, man. Don't put that down. Yeah, also, we've got a Patreon as well. Click on the link. Patreon support. You can get on there. You can get entered into prizes. Check it out. Supporting us would be great.
Nice one, guys. Later. Bye.